All right, everybody, welcome back. We are here kind of as a special class or special topic on pretty fast turnaround. Everybody knows by now the news that broke this last weekend about Disney making a change as CEO and Bob Iger being back as CEO of the Walt Disney Company. And so I found the perfect person to talk to about this. Lee Cockerell, a former executive in the Walt Disney Company at one time, and I'll allow Lee to tell his story and give the official title. But at one time, he was in charge of Walt Disney World in Orlando, and since retirement, he has spent a lot of time consulting with people and working with people on their ventures and on how they can improve their business acumen. And so it's really great to have Lee back. And also just a side note, and Lee, I don't know if you remember this, you were actually the first person that we did a one-on-one interview style like this.
Oh, is that
April
right?
2020, you were going to Skype into the class. And then when everything shut down, you had emailed me and said, "Hey, are you doing something remote? What are you guys doing now?" And so we just came up with this idea to do one-on-one interviews. And since then, much to my delight, probably not to the visitors' delights, but we've been doing this ever since. So we've had this one-on-one. So that started with you as well.
Well, it works, I can tell you, And by the way, I was I was executive vice president of operations. I reported to Al Weiss, who was the president, but yeah, I ran all the operations at Disney for 10 years. But I can tell you this concept of being online works, and whoever thought. I have a client in Brazil that hired me to speak to all of his team, 200 people, retail business and fast food business, every Friday for an hour, just talking about leadership, management, customer service, ideas, everything you can think about to be better leaders, better managers. And we've been doing it for about, maybe almost a year now.
Yeah.
And I asked him, I said, "How long are we going to do this?" I said, "We talk about the same thing every week." And he said, "We're going to always do it," because I said, it's kind of like, things keep changing. They're little things. My people are getting more comfortable. They're asking questions. They're making better decisions now because they're understanding the concept of their involvement, that they matter, that they can be more than they think they can be, that they have influence. And I just find that that is going to speak well to the future
Yeah.
of contacting people and being able to bring people in that have different opinions, which you would never be able to do it as frequently if you had to fly people in and get. I mean, it wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this is just working great. And so he has 450 stores in Brazil. That's athletic shoe stores. It's called World Tennis, and he has 300 or 400 fast food places and malls. And the other day, and this is good for your students. We talk about having the right people in the
Hmm.
organization and how important the manager is, that set the environment and the culture and be the example. And so one of the guys came on and said, "Mr. Cogger, I want to tell you something." The first few weeks, nobody spoke up. Now
Yeah.
they're coming in. He said, "We had a manager for 22 years. She was part of the family, and she wasn't doing a good job. And this week we fired her,
Yeah.
and we feel so good. Everybody's happy." I said, "Okay, that's good, but when should you have fired her?"
Yeah.
He said, 10
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah.
10 years ago. Oh, God knows what that's done to his bottom line,
Yeah.
turnover, people quitting, unhappy.
Yeah.
And so the lessons are going through because people are starting to learn that you got to have some critical thinking here. You can't just,
Yeah.
nice. She was a nice lady, I'm sure, but she was totally ineffective.
Yeah.
So, and I think this thing with, Bob Iger coming back, the leadership lessons are there for anybody that's been paying attention. I can tell you, I talk always about the three most important things you got to do as a leader. You know, the three-legged stool, we always call it. You got three legs you got to keep in good shape, and that is you got to take care of the cast members, the employees. I mean, that's your job. You got to take care of your customers. I mean, obviously, and you got to take care of Wall Street or the
Yeah.
bank. I mean, those are three legs. And really, unfortunately, I'm sure Bob Chapek's a nice guy. I don't know him, never met him, but he broke all three legs.
Hmm.
And you know, when all three legs are gone, you have nothing to stand on. And I think it was just it was too bad that I think he came in a little hard and he had his ideas and he didn't want to listen to anybody.
Yeah.
If I'd have been him, I would have kept Bob Iger as my best friend, where
Hmm.
I could call him and say, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? But he didn't. And the other thing, that he centralized everything. So all the leaders in the company no longer had any authority.
Yeah.
You had to go to him for approval. And when you cannot take great people and give them responsibility without authority,
Yeah.
I mean, it
Yeah.
doesn't, I mean, that's not going to work, never. And it's not even the right thing to do. In fact, it's ridiculous. Because if you centralize things, that kind of sends a message you don't trust anybody
Yeah.
and that only you know the answers and that you can handle all this. And I think we're seeing that with Elon Musk too. He's
Hmm.
trying to run everything. And I think he made a quote this morning, I'm involved in too many things.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah.
I mean, when you sleep on the floor in your office, you're involved in too
Yeah.
many things. And of course, you're missing a lot of great opinions, great advice,
Yeah.
great expertise, because the more you tighten down the organization, the less people give you.
Yeah.
They just kind of hang in there to make it to retirement alive. And so the lessons are there. The three-legged stool. Always remember, it's a dilemma. It's
Yeah.
hard work to be a leader because you got to keep all three of those, and you know, and
Yeah.
one gets a little shorter, you got to get it back. You got to get the other a little shorter. You got to keep working it, and
Yeah.
but it's all about people.
Yeah.
And once you annoy people, they're not going to support you. They may hang around because they're afraid to leave, or but they will give you 50% of what you used to
Hmm.
get. So already you're getting less productivity, you're getting less commitment, you're getting less new ideas. It gets negative pretty quick, but you don't see it because we all put on a good face,
Yeah.
you know, especially in corporate life. It just because a lot of people make a lot of money and have a lot of perks and a lot of stock and all this stuff, so they put up with nonsense. And that's what happened to him. He wasn't getting the right information from all the experts that he had surrounded himself by, and that's pretty. That's all. I listen to all the experts in my life. I do exactly what my doctor says, what
Yep.
my wife says, what my computer guy says, my marketing person says. I don't have any ideas. I just listen to them because they know a lot. They know a lot more than I do about it, and it all works out.
Yeah.
And so those are the kind of things to remember. And you got to have Bob didn't just Bob Chapek. He really he's a hard guy. I mean, you know, when you're hard like that, and something it's usually a lack of self confidence or lack of empathy, maybe being a little more finesse in how you deal with people. You know, at least fake it,
Yeah.
even if you're and Bob Iger has that talent. When you're with Bob Iger, within a minute, you feel comfortable with him.
Yeah.
You trust him, and he's never done anything that I've seen that caused me not to. He was always that kind of person. I mean, I could feel like I could call him up if I wanted to and give him some information. It'd be fine, and I wouldn't put myself in jeopardy. And so those are the lessons I think on the leadership issue there, and. I just everybody needs to keep that in mind because when you go in and your ego gets bigger than your ability, uh, and you don't use the people around you to prop that up, that's what happens. I
Yeah.
mean, we see it over and over. That's why the average CEO is lasting 3 years. I just saw a study where a huge percentage of CEOs are suffering from major anxiety right now,
Hmm.
leading to depression and divorces and alcohol and that stress and pressure is much better when you have a team that helps you
Yeah.
go forward. When you try to do everything yourself and you live in your little shell and you get more and more isolated, your brain gets crazy.
Yeah.
And isolation is probably the worst thing. We saw that during the pandemic. Don't be alone.
Yeah.
Don't be alone. That's why everybody got a dog.
Yeah.
That's a dog or a cat, something.
Yeah.
And so I think those were the lessons. I saw it coming the minute he was in charge of the parks. From all the feedback I was getting about his style. It's about style.
Yeah.
You got to make people comfortable. And we're in the business at Disney of serving people. We
Yeah.
serve. That's what we do. We serve strangers, which takes a lot. And we're nice. Our motto is kind of be nice and
Yeah.
serve and go out of your way and help people and build their self-confidence, build their self-esteem, build their belief in themselves. And people will give you a lot.
Yeah.
But once they don't trust you, that all goes away. And then Wall Street doesn't have much time to mess around.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
The,
but that could have been explained too. They don't fire you for losing your job over 1 or 2 quarters, 3 quarters if you got a plan. But a lot of people were out there in the world and not supporting him, and
mhm.
including Bob Iger. So that kind of put people in a mindset that, well, there must something be wrong here. Now
Yeah.
I'm as shocked as anybody that Bob Iger came back. I mean, I'm going, whoa, that is a Disney story.
Yeah.
We had a villain, the hero came back on the white horse, slayed the dragon, and everybody lived happily ever after. I mean, this is like a Disney story,
Well,
which is
and
great.
there was even an analyst, I don't know who it was, but there was an analyst who said he would be back as CEO. And when asked
Is
about it,
that right?
of course he said, that's not going to happen. He was asked about it early 2021, or no, sorry. Right after he officially left the company. So at the end of 2021, early 2022 is when he was asked about it, and he said, that's not going to happen. He's no longer the CEO. One thing that I thought was really interesting, and you said it about like the average CEO lasts about 3 years. With the Walt Disney Company, it has been, there have been what, 1 or 2 that have lasted a
Well,
short
Michael
amount of
Eisner
time.
was there for about 18 years and
Yeah,
Bob
he
for
was there,
15. I
and
mean, Eisner was there when I joined in 93.
yeah,
And during that whole time I was there for 16 years, Eisner had been there long before I got there. Yeah. You had consistency
yeah,
because, when you change leadership, there's a lot of concern,
hmm,
uncertainty, fear. So that it and Bob and Michael both were creative people,
yeah,
and I think Bob Chapek was not creative, but he had worked for 30
yeah,
years and run all the
yep,
divisions and done a
yeah,
good job. But they always talk about the old tipping point.
yep,
You maybe I mean I can think about it at Disney. When I was at Disney, people wondered why I didn't become the president. I'm not qualified to be the president. I am not a finance guy. I'm not a strategy guy. I'm an operations guy. So I was right in the right place,
yeah,
and I would have never done that. But um, I think our ego, sometimes we take things
yep,
that just because it makes us feel better, and we were a big deal, and we want to be famous.
yeah.
A lot of famous people are falling by the wayside
Yeah.
these days.
Well, and
Yeah.
so because another thing I noticed with the company is because the last, uh, the last 20, 30 years have been under 2 or 3 CEOs.
Too.
And when Michael Eisner took over as CEO, when he became CEO, he took over under less than ideal circumstances for the company. The company had to fend off a
Yeah.
hostile takeover attempt.
Yeah.
So he kind of took over, and it was almost like, well, like he can do great things. He can only do great things now because of where the company was. Then by the time he left, I think like his popularity had decreased.
Yeah.
They fended off another hostile takeover attempt. So when Bob Iger took over, it was as though like, well, Bob Iger's going to come in and he's going to fix things. And then, Bob Iger is the first CEO to leave in my lifetime that left under like very positive circumstances. And so what, and then obviously when Chapek takes over, I mean, he's taking over when COVID-19 is spreading around the world rapidly.
That was a downer.
It's
Yeah.
it's like 2 weeks after he is named CEO is when it's actually officially called a pandemic. Like, so and so it was just interesting to me that people have become CEO under those circumstances. Bob Chapek becomes CEO under what people think are great circumstances. And then we have this pandemic happen. And now like Bob Iger is coming back. And again, he's like for the second time, he's almost playing kind of like the knight in shining armor that whatever he does is going to be positive. Um it it also it makes me think of, we're seeing it more and more in college athletics, that because of things like name, image, and likeness and the transfer portal rules, now like coaches can come in and they can actually get talent quicker. So, it used to be the old rule was you need 4 or 5 years for a football coach to actually, get his own recruits in. But now that's been shortened tremendously because of the new rules that people are able to abide by. And so we're seeing more and more coaches last fewer and fewer years.
Yeah.
So my question is, a long-winded way of asking it, but it sounds like Bob Iger taking over is good for the company. It sounds like, I mean, all the reports are coming out that people are very excited about this. Does this also, is this also kind of a warning call to other entertainment companies, other themed entertainment or hospitality companies, that if you have, so, like a successive period of bad performance, that you may not last as CEO very long? Like, is it this, we need you to come in and you need to make changes and implement, and you need to have positive outcomes right away? Is that something that you think is going to happen from this?
Oh, absolutely. I think it was already in play already,
Okay.
and not just in our business and entertainment and hospitality, across all businesses. It's about performance today, especially if you're a public company, particularly. I mean,
Yep.
if you're not a public company, sure, the family or whoever, if you got enough capital to go through the ups and downs of making mistakes. But if you're a public company, they want results, they want it now, and I think, yeah, well, that's what we're going to see. People want, it's like it's in sports. If you can't
Mm-hmm.
catch the ball and you can't score,
Yep.
or they said on Broadway, if you can't dance and you can't sing, you're out of the show.
Yeah.
And but Disney's extremely complex, and I feel a little bad for Bob, because he did come right in the
Yeah.
pandemic, and I've been fired in my career. I didn't think it was my fault, but now I look back, probably it was my fault. I had a very aggressive management style early in my career. I had a kind of an insecure guy. I wanted to be the boss. I bossed everybody around, and I worked my way out of it. Luckily, and my career got better because I became a better leader and started trusting people and started hiring better people and training them and treating them right. And that's a hard message, and especially when you come into a crisis. When you're in and I think Bob thought he was doing the right things. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think he thought he was doing anything wrong. I think it may still play out that he was doing the right things. This
Mm-hmm.
whole streaming may play out in the future that, we always look back to, well, they were right. Who knows? But people have a short attention span now. They want it, and they want it
Mm-hmm.
now, and they want it quick. And that's in everything we do today. Americans have little patience, and I think probably Wall Street has even less. And uh, it's to find the right person to lead a company like Disney, which is, and by the way, Chapek came into the parks where kind
Mm-hmm.
of his reputation got started, like he's a hard ass and he's and that's not the Disney thing,
Yeah.
and I think thinking back about that as that probably was the beginning, because it wasn't. He's a smart guy, but people didn't like him.
Yeah.
People liked Bob Iger.
Yeah.
Maybe that piece,
Yeah.
that likability, transfers
Yeah.
pretty significantly. Because when people like you, you can make some mistakes, and
Yeah.
okay. When people don't like you, everything you do is wrong.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's timing. I mean, everybody's getting in the streaming business. The economy went down. Employment is like everybody I work with do not have enough people. I
Yeah.
mean, and they're struggling.
Yeah.
And so timing is everything. I was at Disneyland Paris when we were losing $1 million a day. I got sent to Orlando that summer. I said the date saved me. I probably would have been
Yeah.
fired with other people just for being there.
Yeah.
This is what happens. The
Yeah.
higher you get, the closer you get to the door. Let me tell you, in an organ, the higher you get, and I, I, and they don't give you a lot of time. The higher
Yeah.
you get, you're just contract's over, boom, go, pay you off, and next case. And it happens in sports. You get traded, you get
Yep. Yep.
fired, you get so many of those. It'd be great for your students.
Yeah.
The lessons
Well,
are there about people.
yeah.
You've got to have people support you and trust you and know you're there helping them too, and talk to everybody.
Hmm.
Everybody knows more than you do, and that's that's a mistake when you got experts and you don't involve them deeply.
Yeah.
They turn on you.
Well, and real quickly, and the students do have they have access to a few of your books that I have read. And you tell some amazing stories in there about, like, when you said, you had a kind of abrasive style of a management style at the beginning. It reminds me of a story that you wrote about where you had an altercation with somebody, and then I believe it was your wife who said, well, do you blame them? Like, what did you expect? It was
My wife
almost like
said,
a
My wife
movie's.
said, "Do people hit you because of the way you talk to them?" I said, "Apparently." So,
um,
but I
the
haven't been hit since 1973, so I'm a good.
there's two more things that I want to ask you. Right now the agreement is it's supposed to be 2 years, and as part of those 2 years, Bob Iger's supposed to find somebody and get somebody ready to become the CEO. Now, that obviously could turn into 3, 4, 5 year, whatever. But right now, the initial agreement is 2 years. So my first question is, what 2 or 3 things do you think Bob Iger needs to do to be to show a sign of like to show a positive sign of maybe turning something around or correcting some of the mistakes that were made? What 2 or 3 things do you think would kind of be a sign of his success?
Well, I think he will. He already announced today he's got a big town hall with cast members tomorrow,
Okay.
and listening, looking at the data, the research, deciding if some of those things they did with the different park strategies are correct or not, whether they should be withdrawn. Should I think he's, I think companies are getting while data is good. When you start making decisions based only on data and not on the
Yeah.
human, you go down the wrong path. Data, and yeah, I mean, and Bob Chapek said, he said, I don't listen to what people say. I listen to what they do, and they're still coming by big numbers to the
Yeah.
park, and people are signing up for the streaming, and that's people are loyal to you until they're not.
Yeah.
So data can tell you people are loyal to you,
Yep.
and we are, but we all change on a
Yep.
dime. I'm never flying out there. I'm never going back to that restaurant. I'm
Yeah.
never, never. And I think when you take the human factor out, and just rely on data, you're going down the wrong path, because you need to listen,
Yeah.
because the listening gets louder and louder and louder, and repeat business is the name of the game for Disney.
Yeah.
I mean, and without that repeat business, and younger people are not as interested in that as maybe they have been over the last many
Yeah.
years. And maybe they will be when they get married and have children, but a lot of them are getting married much later, and
Hmm.
people are having less children, and a lot of people are just staying single, and there's a lot going on
Yeah.
to keep the reputation that this is an unbelievable visit, and it is still, by the way. I mean, people still go there, they're
Yeah.
paying the new prices, and they love it,
Yeah.
and
I
their
mean,
kids are
we
happy.
were there November 2021, and we did the Genie Plus. And I've talked to a few people about, like, I felt awkward using Genie Plus because like I just felt like other people could see that, well, they're going through the front of the line because they either could afford it,
Yeah,
they chose to do
right.
it.
Yeah,
But at the same time, I also state my hypocrisy is I justified using it. I would justify doing it again, because of a visit we had a few years earlier where there was a mistake with one of our reservations, and we were given like or we were given additional fast pass pluses, and I remember at that point saying, like, this is amazing. If yeah, I'm in. If you ever have to pay for this, I'm in for it. So I mean, we had an amazing time. So yeah, definitely. I threw that in because you were talking about, like, how people are
yeah.
loyal, and how people are still having it's a great experience and everything.
Well, it's business is it's like any business, and I think one of the executives at Disney said it. It's like supply and demand. It's like a
Yeah,
cruise line. The prices, airlines are up 40% because there's a demand. You go to a restaurant. I mean, supply and demand. I don't know if Disney loyalists always thought about it that way,
yeah,
because of the whole world has changed,
yeah,
and I mean, it's a different world we're living
yeah.
in, and
So Lee, is there anything else you see as something that would point to or make these next 2 years a success for Iger?
yeah, I mean, I think he will. Yeah, I think you'll see things. I think we'll see him doing things that the guest and the cast are very aware of that are positive.
Okay.
Now, I think the financial problem could be a while, because I don't know how deep they're debt in, how they
Yeah.
can back out, how they can market it more, spend. I mean, the financial results will probably be a lot slower to improve than the perception of Disney
Yeah.
by the cast member. Cast members are going to be happy as a lark now, and so are the guests. They like, this is just like, hey, the
Yeah.
game, we're cheering, we're the winner, and so they're going to feel better about that. But even if you feel better about the trust in the company, you feel better about the pricing. Hey, and there people are kind of on a high, so he's got some time. But
Yeah.
the financial, and by the way, the CFO is the one who kind of went to the board and told him
Yeah. Yeah.
Bob Chapek wasn't the guy. So, I mean, they've got very strong, smart people, and as long as they give them back the authority and let them trust them and move through and involve everybody and include everybody, I think you'll see this. This is a product that's not
Yeah.
going away.
Do
You know?
you think some of the people that may have left the company would return?
I think Bob could probably talk anybody into anything.
Okay.
He
Okay.
could, and maybe his replacement's one of those top guys that
Yeah.
thought they were going to be and left.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. Why not? He
Yeah.
came back. Why not go recruit one of the people everybody already loved and wanted to be in charge, and he didn't quite get picked. And
Yeah.
so I think the approach will be quite different. I would hope it's somebody that's been there before
Hmm.
that was really great. Tom Staggs was one of the candidates. He's a fabulous guy,
Hmm.
smart. Who knows what the politics are, not getting
Yeah.
the nod. And they're going to be a little more open-minded about it now
Yeah.
since this mistake was made.
Well,
So,
and
yeah,
that's actually the last question is, and I'll preface it by saying, like, I saw some commentary yesterday maybe that I thought it was a really good point. Somebody said, um, most companies, people don't know the CEO of most companies, but with the Walt Disney Company, because people have such affinity to it and such emotional attachment, people do know who the CEO is. They know who the upper management is a lot of times, and they there's an expectation that upper management, and especially the CEO, is going to, they're doing something that people believe is right and in the best interest of everybody. And it said, the successful CEOs of the company have understood that, and possibly that was misunderstood over the last, year and a half, or however, or actually a little bit longer since he was CEO. So I'm not necessarily asking who you think could be Bob Iger's replacement, but what characteristics do you think are important for the next person to follow Bob Iger? Because it's also, you are following somebody who has been extremely successful, and at times that, has definitely, people have definitely criticized him at times, but for the
Yeah.
most part has had a very positive perception. So
Yeah,
what
I mean,
characteristics do you see?
it's going to be tough, and I think it's going to have to be somebody that's got that personality that when you come into contact with them, or hear them, or listen to them, and that you see the common sense. You see that they're a person that's logical, a person that's got good ethics, that's honest. And that's Bob. When he gets in a room with all the cast members, he can answer any question, no matter how hard it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the things too, maybe Bob Chapek didn't understand, or maybe Bob Iger didn't understand when he put Chapek in there, was when you go run the parks, that's the only place in Disney that has customers that go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And Chapek ran consumer products. I don't even know what he did before. I never heard him before he came into the parks. And guests that buy Disney products at Walmart are different than Disney guests who go to the parks.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, you just said it. Most people in the world don't know any CEO's name,
Yeah.
and don't even care. But this one is personal, and literally, I remember that when I was at Disney, we were the only division that has real live Americans and
Mm-hmm.
worldwide customers that come in, and from every income level. When you go to the movies and all that, everybody's a president. These are
Yeah.
executives, these are producers, these are big name people. And streaming, I mean, that's a very technical, it has not, there's no customer that's involved in that
Yeah.
except whether they buy Disney Plus or not. And that's something to remember. When you get into the retail, customers facing you, it's different than
Yeah.
running a business where you're up there and you really have no contact with the customer. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of dynamics going on there that are quite different.
Yeah.
Disney's like two different companies. There's the people, the park side, which is all customers, people, kids, and then there's the other side, and they're really two different companies.
Yeah.
And Bob understands both of them.
Yeah.
And Bob's allows people to run their business.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the difference.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Well, and Lee, thank you for doing this, especially, again, I said, on such short notice.
Yeah, sure.
This was great. For people who want to follow um what you're doing, and the advice you put out on a daily basis. LeeCockerell.com is the website, but also, how other ways can people follow you?
Well, I think some people may be interested in our podcast because they're only 15 minutes, and there's over 400 out there now on leadership, management, customer service. We're doing them now on how the world has changed, how you better be interviewing differently, how you better be today the employee is going to be interviewing you, not you interviewing
Mm-hmm.
them. Because this age group today, they consider everything before they take a job,
Yeah.
not just the salary and position and title. They want to know the whole ball of wax, my
Yeah.
life, time off, how are you going to treat me when I have an issue. So we're doing those podcasts, and they're free, and I think anybody that listens to them will pick up some good ideas about how to hire, how to fire, how to treat people, how to think about getting better information when you have to make a decision.
Yeah.
And
And what's the name of the
your
podcast?
customers and your employees know everything you need to know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's called Creating Disney Magic
Yeah. Okay.
podcast. Yeah.
Okay.
So they can hear me.
Okay.
And if they want to go to the website, they can buy something too.
Okay. Well, Lee, again, thank you so much for doing this. This was great, and enjoy the rest of your holiday.
Great. Keep those students coming out. We need them.
Will do. Bye.
Take care. Bye now.